Hello, today I am going to talk about another Blazor template which is called Blazor Web App. Blazor Web App is a full stack framework. It executes on server, client or both. Fast initial loading using server-side rendering, runs in ASP.NET Core server, and it dynamically blends server-side rendering with interactive client-side rendering. So I am going to show a short demo today about Blazor Web App template. So first, what is actually the blending of server-side rendering with client-side rendering, which means actually the initial pre-rendered page is served by the server and visible to the user, while the browser downloads the Blazor WebAssembly runtime in the background. So WebAssembly rendering initializes and takes over the rendering, and gradually transitioning the application to the client-side execution. So the subsequent API calls and UI updates are actually performed in the client side so that the need for server communication could be reduced. So here, earlier I showed an example using Blazor WebAssembly, and here I am showing the Blazor Web App and how it works while fetching record from the backend. First, in the program, I have an web API running in this port 7141 locally. So I have actually injected the web API with the service, and I am using the HTTP client. I named it with web API. In the course Blazor component, what I did, I have used the web API and loaded the data from the API course. I have a model class which is containing two attributes, ID and name. And in the nav menu, I have referenced the course API navigation link, which is using in the course Blazor at the top. So when I click on the course, it will show the Blazor component and will display the data here when I click on the course button. And when I click on the course button, it will call this function and load the data from the web API. I have an API running already. So this is my API course, and here is the data, sample data. So when I call the API, this data will be loaded and will be displayed in the page. So if I run the application, when I click on the course, get course, it is loading the data from the backend, from the API. So for that, in the Blazor Web App template, I had to use the render mode interactive server, which was not needed in case of Blazor WebAssembly. And necessary pages here, in the page I have created a course page, which is a component, Blazor component. And in the layout, this is a navigation, nav menu component where I have actually declared the course navigation link, and this is a model. So in practice, in the real world, you will have your services, your repositories, you will have database connection, and you load the data from your database using your API, and you will call the API as it is showing here. So this is a short, very brief description about the Blazor Web App. So I actually created the project by going into the new project, and I have used Visual Studio 2026. So here, if you type Blazor, you will select Blazor Web with the C# language in the backend, and you will give your name, the project name, and lastly you will click on the create to create your project. So in later video I will discuss about the difference between the Blazor Web App and Blazor Web Assembly, which will contain how Blazor Web App and Blazor Web Assembly is structured in the project and how does the framework works. So I will elaborate how do the Blazor Web Assembly and Blazor Web App differs from each other. Thank you.